Can one stone change the course of history? I will tell you the story of David, who became one of the most famous kings who ever lived. Episode 1 of A Shepherd and King. The House of David starts with a narrator questioning how a stone changed the course of history through David's story. 500 years after Moses split the sea, the narrator quickly starts the story of how Saul was the first appointed king of Israel. After his anointing, Saul promptly won many hearts by winning every battle and securing the kingdom. The scene then cuts to the battle between the Israelites and the Philistines. Goliath mocks the Israelite soldiers for not coming up to fight against him. A young man courageously volunteers to go after Goliath with his stone sling, but is killed instantly. We circle back to a year earlier, where we meet David, who is looking after his father's sheep. One of the sheep is attacked by a lion, but David manages to save it. Later that night, he takes the flock back home, and we get a whiff of the animosity between him and his family. The only one who is happy to see David is Ava, his young sister. His other brother mocks him for being a shepherd, while their dad tells old stories from the days of Moses. Jesse wants his kids to know God and the history of the Israelites. Later, David gets into an argument with his dad over his harp. Jesse wishes David would throw it away, but it is the only thing David has to remember his mom and will not part with it. They also argue about the return of the lion. In a flashback, we learn that David's mom was the one who taught him how to play the harp. Meanwhile, another battle on the other side of the kingdom rages on. Jonathan and his dad, King Saul, are fighting against the Amalekites. Samuel had instructed Saul to slay the Amalekite king Agag and destroy everything. However, Saul disobeys the Lord's orders and shares the plunder with the elders of the 12 tribes of Israelites. At the same time, Jonathan and his guard Eliab leave immediately to inspect a border village destroyed in the north of Bethlehem. There, he finds a little boy, the sole survivor, and evidence that the giants have ravaged the village. The little boy, Reuben, refuses to speak, so Jonathan brings him back to the camp. He finds his brother enjoying the plunder from the latest victory, and his dad putting up a steely front. Saul feels Jonathan is needlessly worrying about Samuel and the giants and should relax. The same goes for the other family members. They are all happy to see Jonathan but wish he would take it easy. Of course, Jonathan tries to caution Saul not to go against Samuel's instructions, but the king's ego gets the best of him. Saul decides to please the elders by sharing the plunder. He also keeps Agag alive to humiliate him at the celebratory party. Back in Judah, Jesse visits David while he is watching the sheep. David tries to convince his dad to let him leave the hills. David feels he is meant for more than shepherding. However, Jesse thinks otherwise and is angry at Saul for already taking his other sons. As they talk, the lion attacks their house, and David rushes to save her. He decides to go after the lion against his dad's wishes. On the other hand, Samuel finishes his prayers and gets a message from God. He hurries to tell Saul the message and arrives at the party later that night. He confronts Saul for failing to heed God's instructions. Saul refuses to admit his mistakes, but Samuel knows he is lying. At first, Saul tries to question Samuel's authority and justify his actions. He questions why Og is still alive and tells Saul that God has turned his spirit from him. Samuel makes it clear that Saul's disobedience has cost him and his generation their future. Not even Jonathan will inherit the throne. Immediately, Samuel starts his prophecy. A strong wind appears, scaring everyone at the party. Saul tries to beg for mercy, but Samuel tells him it is too late. The Lord has already chosen another, and Saul's legacy is done. Samuel then walks to Agag and slays him in front of everyone. Samuel leaves after reminding everyone that God is not mocked. Back in Judah, David chases the lion to its cave and bravely kills it. The episode ends with him walking out of the cave while Samuel prepares himself to find the new king.